The AI systems being sold to hospitals, courts, schools, and governments right now cannot actually think. They cannot understand language. They are, at their core, autocomplete on steroids, and the people selling them know it. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what AI companies are lying to you about and why, who is actually being harmed, what Silicon Valley celebrates, and what the authors say you should do about it. Let's get into it. Chapter 1. The Con itself. Emily Bender is one of the most respected computational linguists in the world. Alex Hanna is a sociologist who studies how technology reshapes power. Together, they wrote a book that basically argues the entire AI industry is built on a foundational lie. And that lie is this: these systems understand nothing. When ChatGPT writes you a cover letter, it is not thinking about your career. When an AI medical tool flags a patient as high risk, it is not reasoning about their health. These systems are doing one thing: predicting the next most statistically likely word or output based on patterns in training data. That's it. Bender and Hanna call this the stochastic Parrot problem, a phrase Bender helped coin in a now famous research paper that Google tried to suppress. The idea is simple. A parrot can string together human-sounding words without understanding a single one of them. Large language models do the same thing, just at a scale that makes it look like comprehension. The con is that companies have taken this statistical trick, wrapped it in science fiction language, intelligence, reasoning, understanding, and sold it to the world as something it fundamentally is not. And here's where it gets darker. Stay with me. Chapter 2. Who pays the price? The authors don't just stop at AI is overhyped. They ask the more important question: who gets hurt when we believe the hype? The answer is almost never the people buying the technology. Bender and Hanna walk through case after case. Automated hiring systems that screen out qualified candidates because their resumes don't pattern match to what the model learned. Predictive policing tools deployed in black and brown neighborhoods that amplify existing bias because they were trained on historically biased arrest data. Child welfare algorithms that flag low-income families for investigation at dramatically higher rates, not because of actual risk, but because poverty correlates with data points the model associates with risk. The pattern is consistent. The people making decisions adopt AI to make their jobs faster. The people subject to those decisions bear all the consequences of the errors. And because these systems produce outputs that look authoritative, a score, a percentage, a recommendation, the humans in the loop stop questioning them. Bender and Hanna call this automation bias. We trust the machine more than our own judgment, even when the machine is wrong. But it gets more uncomfortable because this isn't just negligence. The authors argue it's a choice. Chapter 3. The manufactured urgency. One of the most important ideas in this book is what Bender and Hanna call the AI hype cycle, and they're unusually specific about how it works. Tech companies, researchers, and venture capitalists have a shared financial interest in making AI seem more capable, more inevitable, and more urgent than it actually is. The more inevitable it feels, the less anyone asks whether we should deploy it. The faster it moves, the less time regulators have to catch up. They point to a rhetorical trick used constantly in AI coverage: the passive voice of inevitability. AI is coming for your job. AI will transform healthcare. Not this company is choosing to deploy an unproven system, but AI, the unstoppable force, arriving whether you like it or not. This framing does something insidious. It moves the conversation from "should we do this?" to "how do we adapt?" It evacuates human agency and replaces it with technological determinism. and it makes anyone who raises concerns sound like a Luddite standing in front of a locomotive. The authors are blunt. This is a deliberate rhetorical strategy, not an accident. Here's what surprised me most about their argument, and this is the part most people miss. Chapter 4: What They Want You to Forget. Bender and Hanna argue that every time we're shown a dazzling AI demo, we're being asked to forget three things. First, we're asked to forget the workers, the data labelers in Kenya and the Philippines, making a few dollars an hour to tag images of violence and abuse so that AI systems can learn to filter it. The gig workers doing the human in the loop tasks that make AI systems seem more capable than they are. The labor that makes AI work is deliberately hidden because it punctures the myth of the autonomous machine. Second, we're asked to forget the data. These models were trained on text and images scraped from the internet without consent. The writers, artists, coders, and journalists whose work built these systems were never asked, never paid, and are now being replaced by the very tools their work trained. Third, we're asked to forget the costs. The water used to cool data centers, the carbon emissions, the energy demands that are quietly reversing progress on climate commitments. The infrastructure of AI is not virtual. It is physical, it is massive, and someone is paying for it. Strip those three things away, and the magic disappears. What's left is a supply chain, a very expensive, very energy intensive supply chain. Bender and Hanna are not saying ban AI. They're saying something more demanding than that. They're saying demand specificity. When someone says AI will improve outcomes, ask them, which AI? Tested how? On whom? With what error rate? Overseen by whom? With what recourse when it fails? They're saying resist the passive voice. Someone is choosing to deploy these systems. Someone is choosing to cut staff and replace them with automation. Locate the human decisions inside the technological language, and they're saying, pay attention to who's missing from the conversation. The people designing AI systems are overwhelmingly not the people who will be most affected by them. Until that changes, we should be deeply skeptical of whose interests these systems actually serve. The book ends with a challenge. The AI con only works if we accept the premise that technological progress is the same thing as human progress. It isn't, never has been. And recognizing that distinction might be the most important thing you can do right now